Mercury, the planetary messenger, is stationing retrograde in Leo Thursday, July 17th at 9:44 p.m. Pacific time. Adjust for your time zone accordingly. Mercury will be retrograde in Leo through August 11th. Hello, my name is Eliane-Nicole. I'm your astrologer and tarot reader, and in this video, I'm going to talk about what it means when Mercury is going retrograde in Leo, because not all Mercury retrogrades are created equally. They are in different signs, and that affects different people in different ways. So I will talk about which signs will be affected the most personally by this Mercury retrograde, and I will talk about the key aspects this Mercury retrograde is making to other planets that make this cycle unique and actually make me really like this Mercury retrograde as far as Mercury retrogrades go. But first, before I get into the translation, I do want to say that if you're watching this on Instagram, I'm just going to post the first 3 minutes here. The entire video will be available on my YouTube channel, Eliane-Nicole. My YouTube channel is my name, Eliane-Nicole. Please find me there. There will be a link in the profile bio of my Instagram to get to the YouTube channel to see the video in its entirety. There's also a link in the profile bio of my Instagram to book a reading with me on my website, Eliane-Nicole.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Please hit the notification bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. Please like, please comment, please share. It helps me in the algorithm and to grow my business and my community, and puts me in a position to continue to give these free astrological offerings. If you are watching this on Instagram, make sure you're following astrology.tarot.Eliane-Nicole. Please like, please comment, please share. Free for you and very helpful to me. And now, without further ado, I do want to talk about what it means that Mercury is going retrograde in Leo. And again, Mercury is different in different signs. In Leo, Mercury is about, speaking from the heart, communicating from the heart. And when Mercury is going retrograde in Leo, it's really reflecting on what the heart's desires are. And what I also like about Mercury retrograde in Leo is that it can be about reconnecting with that inner child, the things that you used to love to do when you were young, when you were unencumbered and didn't have mortgage and bills or rent or whatever. And, those just honest, pure expressions of joy that we once had as a child. And everybody has that. For people who have children, that can be bringing that out in you with your children through this cycle. But in general, it's just a time where I think, people are reflecting on like what it is that brings them pure joy, And aside from that, well, let me just say that Mercury has to do with, travel plans and deliveries and, contracts, negotiations. Mercury retrograde is not the ideal period for launching new endeavors. It's good for reworking, revising, editing, going back over something you've already started before moving forward to the next phase. In fact, it's a really beneficial and natural part of that ebb and flow. And so Mercury retrograde, I feel like it's gotten a bad rap in the mainstream. In and of itself, yes, it can be annoying because, you can lose your keys and the phone or the technology starts blitzing and things like that. But there is a whole level of Mercury retrograde that's really, it's just telling us to slow down, kind of stop moving so quickly and to reflect. We need periods of reflection. It can't always just be go, 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 go forward all the time. And that's built into the planets. And I think that, I know particularly in America, we are kind of taught and raised to just go, 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 go all the time. And if we're not constantly producing, and if we're not constantly like moving forward towards some goal, that somehow we aren't, there's almost a moral judgment on that in the American culture. And the cosmos say that there's an ebb and a flow to how we're supposed to live. The moon says there's an ebb and a flow to how we're supposed to live. Mercury says there's an ebb and a flow to how we're supposed to live. And so, if you don't fight against the currents, it can be a really useful time. And again, I really like this Mercury retrograde because as it stations, it's forming a sextile with Venus, the goddess of love and beauty, who is in Gemini. So Venus and Mercury are speaking in harmony, and sextiles are of the nature of Venus. And so it definitely feels like there is a major relational aspect to this Mercury retrograde. There's a lot about matters of the heart, relationships, a lot with romantic relationships, but with some people it will have to do with friendships. Some people will have to do with the relationship to their children. For some people it has to do with the relationship to their father, because Leos always have a kind of, there's a certain very close karmic bond with the father that's a part of their identity. So, and Leo is a legacy sign too. So all of that kind of stuff might be reflected on during this period. Mercury retrograde, I know, is famous for being a time where you run into your ex or hear from an old love or someone who you used to flirt with or have a crush on or whatever, who reappears, and that can happen during Mercury retrograde. And I think really especially during this Mercury retrograde, because of the sextile to Venus, there is this sense of a flirtation going on, or kind of like a romantic it's a romantic turn maybe into the past, though, in some way. And for couples who are together, married, or in a relationship, it'll present differently than for people who are single. Obviously, as a couple, you may be going back to what it was in the beginning of your relationship that brought you joy, the things you used to enjoy together, that maybe now with kids and responsibilities and work and everything, you've gone away from that or lost that or not had time to do that. And maybe now during Mercury retrograde in Leo, you'll be able to get back to that and connect to that kind of playful, fun place in your relationship, and that can be romantic. And so I like this Mercury retrograde. Like I said, it's just like, it's in Leo, and then there's the artistic component too, because Leo is about creative self-expression. It's about speaking from the heart. I mean, I do think on the shadow side there will probably be some foot and mouth situations during this Mercury retrograde, but in the most kind of innocent way, the most innocent, childlike way. But that's there. And I'm going to get into more of the specifics. I'm just kind of giving a general overview. Mercury in Leo is ruled by the sun. So the sun is in Cancer the first 3 days, and then the sun will be in Leo for the rest of the time. So the tone of the Mercury retrograde will change, from the first 3 days. In the beginning, it's a little bit more of an emotional Mercury, and then it's going to get just a lot more fiery and feisty and loud. And so, you know, okay, I'm like, what do I say next? The signs that it will affect the most. I know everyone always wants to know that. Leos, Leo, sun, moon, rising, especially in the first three, I mean, in anywhere in the 18 degrees, gosh, to 1 degree, 1 to 18 degrees, you know, like the first 2 decans of Leo will really be affected by this. And I think the third decan will feel it too. But it may be the Leos who have the foot and mouth syndrome during this period because the Mercury is retrograde in your sign. You know, Aquariuses will be very affected by this in a more oppositional manner because the Mercury retrograde will be opposing you. So there may be some oppositional forces in communications during this period. It could be with your children. It could be around your art or creativity. It could have something to do with legacy. It could have something to do with like stepping into the spotlight and in ways that are uncomfortable for you, for Aquarius, because that's another thing about the Leo energy that I forgot to mention is it really is about being seen. And in the case of Mercury retrograde in Leo, also about being heard. It's about your voice. And so I think that for Aquarians, sometimes they're not as comfortable being in the spotlight. And so this Mercury retrograde period may push them into the spotlight in a way that they are uncomfortable with, but will be good for them in the end. And then also Taurus and Scorpio, the other fixed signs, will really be affected by this Mercury retrograde in Leo. And it will form a square to your Scorpio placements. It will form a square to your Taurus placements. So Taurus, sun, moon, and rising especially will be affected. But if you have Venus in Taurus or Scorpio, it'll affect you on a relationship level, or Mars, it'll affect you on, you know, that Martian level, possibly with, you know, your drive, your anger, your motivation, your libido. Anyway, call me for a reading if you want to get more into the details. I don't want to go down any rabbit hole too much. It all gets so much more and more specific. But basically, the square with Mercury to your Scorpio placements in Leo, this is fire versus water. So this could be, you know, it's a pot of boiling water over there between the Leo and Scorpio houses during this Mercury retrograde. And that is, you know, Scorpio is very private. Leo is very public. So I see that there could be a square off in terms of those type of topics, like privacy versus public sharing, being in the limelight versus being behind the scenes. So that square off will be happening for the angle of Scorpio and Leo. And there's probably other things, but yeah, many other things. But that's, you know, I want to keep it going. On the Taurus Leo axis, I don't know, you know, there can be like conspicuous consumption, you know, showing off material things that leads to a challenging situation for you, you know. You know, maybe getting the wrong kind of attention for your money, your beauty, your fame, your popularity. So and this again, these are just things that I'm transmitting right now. There are so many different levels, but I do want to go through the aspects. There's only two main aspects: the sextile to Venus and Gemini. This is beautiful for writing, singing, acting, anything, you know. It's great just for beautiful, warm conversations, connecting with friends, connecting with siblings. And then on July 31st is the Cazimi with the sun, where Mercury will be in the heart of the sun in Leo. I think that this is a victorious moment of really like finding your voice, expressing yourself freely from the heart, stepping into the spotlight, shining, glowing, radiating. I think we're going to see inspiring speeches from leaders on the world stage, or a particularly inspiring historical speech from a leader that will, help move the country or the world forward in the next cycle. Inspirational kind of stuff. Really beautiful singing performances, great acting performances, like that kind of stuff. Comedians, Leo rules comedians. Leo also rules royalty. So July 31st is a big moment for the royal family. I think July 31st might be where King Charles and Harry reunite publicly, maybe for the first time, when the sun and Mercury conjoin in Leo, because Mercury is the child and the sun is the leader. So that just kind of came to mind. But I think that, let me take it through the rising signs really quickly. If you're an Aries rising, Mercury retrograde in Leo will be in your 5th house. So this could have to do with things with your children from the past that are coming up. It could be people from your childhood or your teenage years who are coming back in. It could just be that you are circling back to doing the things that you enjoyed doing as a child, or when you were a teenager, when you were young and younger. I know everybody out here is young. I have a wide age perspective. I read for teenagers and I read for people in their retirees, so it's it runs the gamut. But which side of that you're on is all dependent on your own personal astrology. Mercury also rules the 3rd house and the 6th house for Aries rising. So this could bring up some health issues that you are going to be minding, or your daily routine. And also it could bring up such stuff with siblings. You may be rewriting something. This may be a short trip you were taking. The travel dates and plans may change. If you're a Taurus rising, Mercury retrograde is going through your 4th house. And so that's the house of family. It's the house of the home and real estate, residence, wealth, the bloodline, the ancestors. So Mercury going through your 4th house is usually issues around home or family. It's usually very personal issues. Mercury retrograde in Leo can be bringing up old issues, but around the children or the teenagers in the family. Sometimes it can have to do with also family issues around the father and the legacy for Leo children. Or Taurus rising children. Taurus rising's children. I'm trying to take this through the houses and make it specific to each sign. So for Taurus rising, aside from your 4th house, it also rules the 2nd house and the 5th house. So yeah, it does really seem like it could be related to your children, or, you know, something, your teenagers. Gemini rising, the third house. Mercury rules the first and the first. So for Gemini rising, this is very personal. Mercury retrogrades are always personal for Gemini and Virgo rising. But for Gemini rising, Venus is in your first house. Uranus is in your first house. Mercury is in charge of both of them. Mercury is going retrograde. There are some really exciting, rapid changes happening for Gemini rising at this time. As Mercury is going retrograde in your third house, you might be hearing from childhood friends, high school friends, even, you know, crushes or romances from the past. You could be, it just looks like you could be reflecting on what your heart's desires are, what you really want, reflecting, revising, reviewing creative plans for an artistic or creative project of some kind. And what else? And you may be kind of thinking about how to bring more joy to your home environment. For Cancer rising, it's in the second house, so this is going to be about finances, and then it's also in your 12th house, so you could be dealing with some kind of like gossip or something going on behind your back, and it deals with the third house, and that could be neighbors, siblings, yeah, I don't know. Sorry, Cancer rising. Leo rising, it's in your first house. Very personal to you. Like I said, you could be the one with foot and mouth, but you're reviewing what your heart's desires are, what you really want. You might be reviewing a creative project that you want to be moving forward with coming up soon, revising, reviewing, reflecting. It also rules your 11th house and second house, so there could be a miscommunication or a misunderstanding with a friend because of something that's said or the way that it's said that's misunderstood. There could also, and it's the second house, so there could also be some issues with money or finance for Leo rising around this Mercury retrograde. It could have to be around your children, or it could be around your leisure activities that bring you joy and fun. But there are some financial issues that need to be reviewed during this period for Leo rising. Virgo rising, it's in the 12th house. So for you, this is really getting into your internal world and, you know, unconscious material that you hold inside, you know, the kind of stuff that comes out in your dreams, you know, when you're sleeping, and you have to kind of decipher it when you wake up. And your dream life may be very rich during this Mercury retrograde. You may be getting messages or hearing things, receiving, somehow transmitting messages, whether you're hearing them or otherwise transmitting them from the ancestors from the other side. This could be a good time for therapy, to talk to a therapist if you're a Virgo rising. A good time to talk with an astrologer if you're a Virgo rising. Mercury also rules your 10th house and your first house, so it's very personal to you. You know, this is really about, you know, yourself, this Mercury retrograde. Again, just reconnecting with what lights up your heart. And you may have to go back, you know, to your childhood, to your teenage years, and think about what your pure interests were before the world made you feel like you had to be a certain way or operate a certain way or have a certain profession or whatever. Like reconnecting to that, you know, and just Virgo, you know, is always that mouth of yours. Just when Mercury is retrograde in Leo, since it's also ruling your first house, just watch your words, because I mean, Mercury retrograde in Leo is pretty innocent in its foot and mouth syndrome, but Virgo can be sharp. So just saying. And Mars is in Virgo too, and so Mercury is in charge of that Mars, and Mercury is in charge of Uranus. So really surprising, shocking things can be coming out of people's mouths during this Mercury retrograde. And Libra risings. Oh yeah, Libra risings, it's in your 11th house. So this has to do with friends, old friends coming back into the picture. People who you used to enjoy, in your youth, who you haven't talked to in a long time, circling back around. That's always fun. It also rules your 9th house and your 12th house. So there may be some international travel going on. You may be doing some broadcasting, some publishing. You may be on a spiritual journey during this time, or you may actually travel overseas. And you may be pursuing higher education at this time also, if you are a Libra rising. All of those are possible. And then it also rules your 12th house. So as Libra risings, you're also really dealing with unconscious material during this Mercury retrograde. It's like, just stuff coming up, maybe stuff that's been repressed or suppressed from the past is coming up. And sometimes that's not always easy, but it's good, because as we clear that out, we become more and more healed and more healthy and more whole, and able to enjoy our present life in a whole different, better way. So have fun with that, Libra rising. And Scorpio rising, it rules your 10th house. So this is going back over something in work. And Mercury also rules your 8th house and 11th house. So this brings in friends, it brings in other people's money, financial entanglements. It can bring in possibly debts, loans, investments. It can bring in your spouse's money. Sometimes it brings up inheritances or things like that. So yeah, that's how it looks for Scorpio rising. Really related to like career stuff, joint finance stuff, and friendship stuff, this Mercury retrograde in Leo. And the Mercury in retrograde in Leo tone remains the same. It's still that fiery, what does the heart want, but you see it's shining its light in our charts from different angles as I go through these risings. Sagittarius rising, it's in your 9th house. So this can have to do with higher education. For people who are in school, literally like at the university level, this looks like, you're having to go back over something that you wrote or studied or learned, or an interaction with a professor or an interaction with the school that now you need to retrace and go back over, and then you will be going back over again. But if you're not a student or a professor, that won't apply. This could have to do with international travel plans that are going to change, be rescheduled, be delayed, be postponed, because Mercury has a lot to do with travel, and the 9th house has to do with international travel. In general, scheduling can be changing around travel, around school, around broadcasting, around publishing, around, and then religion and spirituality. This may be a time where you are questioning your faith in some way. It also rules the 7th and 10th house for Sagittarius. So this is going to bring up relationship issues, as well as communication in relationships, romantic relationships, but it could also be creative collaborations, friendship, business partnership that are long-term. But, and then it rules your 10th house. And so this is, again, for Sagittarius rising, still a Sagittarius sun and rising, you know, it's about your career, it's about your relationship, it's about your spiritual direction. And Capricorn rising, Mercury retrograde is in your 8th house. This is other people's money, so you're going over financial entanglements you have with others, whether that's your spouse's money, your parents' money, loans, debt, taxes. This Mercury retrograde is about going back over that stuff. Mercury also rules your 6th and 9th house, so you might be going back over some old health issues that need to be reviewed and revisited and seen to. And then for the 9th house, you know, this can be a, you know, a test of faith, you know, again for Capricorn rising. But it may indicate a change in international travel plans. It could indicate a change in scheduling around school or educational types of things. Or it could indicate a change in scheduling around broadcasting or publishing or something like that for Capricorn risings. For Aquarius rising, it's in the 7th house, Mercury retrograde. So it's in your house of marriage and relationship. So this can very much be involving your spouse, this Mercury retrograde, or your significant other. If you're single, it definitely means you're going to be hearing from someone from the past. Yeah, it's really Aries rising and Aquarius rising, 7th and 5th house, that are likely to hear from an ex. I feel like astrologers, I see a lot of astrologers online always blanketing that you're going to hear from the ex of the Mercury retrograde. And I guess maybe that is good for the algorithm or it excites people. But that does come up for people in Mercury retrograde. That is a real thing, but only when Mercury's like in your 5th or 7th house, or if Mercury rules your 5th or 7th house, you know, but it's not just across the board for everybody. But in this Mercury retrograde case, Aries rising and Aquarius rising. And then finally, Pisces rising. Mercury retrograde is traveling through your 6th house. So it does look like there are some health issues that you need to review and look over. And revisit, or maybe it's just that you're reworking, revisiting, revising your daily routine, your daily ritual around health and fitness, which would be great during this time. And Mercury rules your 4th house and your 7th house, so there may be some old communication issues coming up in your relationship, possibly about the children, about the teenagers, it also rules your 4th house of home and family. And so, yes, you're going back over plans around home, family, the children. And again, if you're a Pisces who's single, you too, because Mercury rules your 7th house, there is that possibility of hearing from an ex. But, you know, I don't really count on that for Pisces. So I think for Pisces, you really have to focus on your health more than anything. And yeah, so I got through all of that. That was a lot. I'm going to end it there. Thank you so much for joining me. I do have to run now. Please contact me for a reading so we can look at where Mercury retrograde in Leo is moving through your chart with your own personal astrology. I read on Zoom, so I can read for people anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. You can keep a recording of the reading afterwards if you want. I don't have the tarot cards next to me, so I'm not going to pull a card. I have to remember to bring the cards here when I'm doing the reading. But yeah, I'm trying to pick up my pace of these videos. More to come soon. Thank you so much for joining me. There's a link in the description notes to book a reading with me. You can also email me at empresseliane@gmail.com if you have any questions or want to book a reading with me directly. And yeah, I guess that's it. Oh, if you would like to buy me a coffee or a tea or a croissant to thank me for this video, I will put my Venmo link in the description to make a donation to help keep my channel going. Thank you. Bye.